I am California of the past.
I am California of the past.
I am California of the past.
Okay. Hello, my name is Bruce Roberts, and I'm a lifelong resident of Hayward, born in the old Hayward Hospital over on 8th Street, which is now the Baker Building, in 1946. So I'm here to tell you a little bit about myself, but even more about my grandfather and the old Hayward High. Now, I had a philosophy. I just retired after 35 years of teaching middle school, and the philosophy was, you know what's right, do it. I didn't think this up myself. I got it from my grandfather. This is the sign he kept on his desk through 55 years of teaching, principaling, even superintendent at one time. And think about it, that is just the basic of human behavior, whether you're a kid in school or an adult or even a politician. You know what's right, do it. My grandfather was born in 1865, way back in the 19th century. This is Civil War time. And as a small child, he took one of the first trips across the country on the Transcontinental Railroad. His father was a minister, had a job lined up in California, put the family on the train and came. He had memories of vast herds of buffalo and even of talking to American Indians at some of the rest stops along the way. Unfortunately, his mother died while they were in California, so his father put them back on the train and took them back to Maine, where he was raised. He attended Boston Latin School. He attended Amherst University, the Andover Newton Theological Seminary at Harvard. He even went to the divinity school at the University of Berlin in Germany and used the occasion to travel around Europe somewhat. On returning to the United States, he got his first job as a minister in Massachusetts. He was married in 1895, and he and my grandmother Carolyn decided full-time ministering was not for him. So he journeyed back across the country to California and enrolled at UC Berkeley, where he was a Phi Beta Kappa and earned his degree in education as well as a lifelong teaching credential. From there, he took the family around California as either a teacher or a principal or even a superintendent. They were in Red Bluff, California, Ferndale, California, way up in the Redwoods, San Luis Obispo, Boulder Creek, where he was the principal, and their old family home was our vacation spot for many years. But in 1911, all that wandering around changed because he was hired as the principal of the brand new Hayward High School, located up on Foothill, where the Safeway is now. It's since been torn down, obviously, because it wasn't earthquake safe. So they erected a city hall that's also not earthquake safe. Bad decision. However, that's another story. He fell in love with Hayward. Earthquakes were not a problem at the time. They'd survived 1906, so life was good. And the high school itself was beautiful. The most beautiful high school in the country, people said. Its entryway off of Foothill was, you walked into a building of huge Greek columns. It was like one of the seven wonders of the world. Some of the walkways between the buildings also had Greek columns to move you on your way. The football field down where the Safeway parking lot is was called Hanlon Field, after Pop Hanlon, an even earlier principal coach, and was the social center of town on Friday nights when the lights would come on and football games would go on amidst all the cheering and yelling. There was a track up to the left in the back, and next to the track was a almost vertical cliff. A hill had been chopped away, and on this hill was a giant concrete H. I believe it's still there. Anytime a game was coming up, the opposing high schools would try to sneak in and paint the H with their colors. And of course, the Hayward kids had to guard it, and if the other team was successful, then some sort of retaliation would happen, and Hayward black and gold colors would show up on the other campus somewhere. It was fun, and done in good fun. I don't think anyone ever got into fights over it or anything like that. Behind the school was Hockey Hill, a hill that had been leveled for a playing field. They did archery, they did field hockey, they did lacrosse, activities that you don't see much of today. It was a beautiful school, and progress, of course, eliminated it. Whether it was really earthquake safe or not, who knows. but it's a shame that it's gone. My grandfather lived on A Street, 1232 A Street, had a big house. It's now the parking lot of the Bank of America, and had 6 kids, his wife Carolyn, and he had Ruth, Mary, Helen, Dot, Fred, and my mother, who was the youngest, Alberta. They all went to Hayward High. 9 grandchildren, including me, I was the last to actually go to the old campus, all went to Hayward High. So we really felt it was the family high school. My grandfather in his later years was known as the grand old man of Hayward High. So we were very sad when it was finally torn down in the 60s. When he retired in 1952, he was 87 years old, and there was an editorial in the paper, and I'd like to read a paragraph out of that editorial about him. After 55 years as an educator, he reads without glasses, has a complete thatch of white hair, white-bearded, straight-standing, mentally vigorous. He is impressive with kindliness, human dignity, humor, and a solid achievement gained from years of learning and service. He can retire from the school system, but he cannot take with him the wealth he has deposited there. It's from the Daily Review. I had a friend who attended Hayward High at the time who said whenever he came in, the kids were just excellent. He was so dignified, so intelligent, so impeccably dressed at all times. Nobody would mess around. They respected him too much. In addition to being an educator, he was an avid hiker. Sunday afternoons would be taking off up to the hills. He had early on in his time in Hayward, he knew of and had a friend in Agapius Honcharenko, quite a name, who was a Russian refugee from the Tsar and lived high up in the Hayward Hills, where he held church services in a cave. Still there. Caves tend to stick around a lot. And hikers can still find this because there's a huge solitary pine tree on the edge of a hill. It really stands out, and Agapius and his wife are buried in the midst of a wooden fence at the base of that. And he would hike up there. Even after Agapius died, the hikes continued. He would take the trolley down to Mission San Jose and climb Mission Peak on a Sunday afternoon. So it was a very active life. He loved fishing. He loved ice skating, a holdover of his New England childhood, I'm sure. Poetry, reading, and writing. He was a member of the Masons, of Rotary. At one time, he was named the Outstanding Citizen of the International Lions Club. Just an all-around Renaissance man who was intellectually curious. He wanted to know about everything. And isn't that what we encourage all our kids to do? Know about things. Knowledge is power, right? Anyway, unfortunately, he passed away. We always said if he'd never retired, he never would have passed away, because his philosophy was, do what you like. Why retire when you like what you do? And he kept teaching right up and teaching principling until he was 87 years old. He was 81 when I was born, so I only knew him as a small child. And I remember a very nice white-haired man bouncing me on his knee, presiding over huge family dinners at Easter and Christmas and Thanksgiving. But I never really knew him as an adult. I would love to know him as an adult, as a colleague. That being impossible, I'm really proud to hear of his achievements. So next time you talk to your kids or your grandkids or your congressman, think of my grandfather and his philosophy. You know what's right. Do it. Thank you.